Welcome back to the Coaching with Impact podcast, the go-to podcast for female coaches ready to elevate their online presence and building a lasting impact. I am your host, Fifa Tran, and I am back with another episode with another exciting guest. Her name is Jennie Wright, and we are talking really juicy things today about lead generation. But thank you for being here today, Jennie.
When you say, do you want to? I don't even ask what it is. I say yes. I just come.
I love how we connected over time and we met at another event, and ever since I've seen you, you've been killing it online. And I've actually known you through other summits that you've probably hosted or were a guest speaker at. So I've heard your name here and there. You're definitely doing something right in the visibility world. So that's why I was like, I need to talk to this. I need to talk to her and have her on the podcast and share more insight about that. Absolutely. Before we dive into anything, I'd love to hear more about you. How did you start? Tell me everything.
Accidental entrepreneurship. That's what this was. I was working in corporate. I was working on gold mining here in Toronto. And
wow.
The gold mining is a very interesting space, but it's also quite volatile. So gold mining companies come and go and all this different stuff, and they change hands. It's crazy. It's also very incestuous, where everybody works from one company and then goes to another. But we won't. That's a completely different podcast.
Oh, wow.
It's probably a Netflix show. Anyways, I ended up leaving and I was packaged out. And I was like, what am I going to do? I have this runway. I have 8 months worth of income until I have to figure stuff out. And my girlfriend said, why not look at being a virtual assistant? And then you can kind of figure out what you want to do. And so I did. And at the time, the only way to be a virtual assistant was through Fiverr. So I was actually a virtual assistant on Fiverr. Quickly outgrew that. Got my first clients. My first clients were all summit clients. I think I had 18 summits running at once at one time. It was insane. Wow. Oh, it was nuts. I was working 13-hour days. My partner had to make a spreadsheet so I could make sure I could check everything off. But yeah, that's where I started out. And I was in marketing previously, so it was kind of felt good to be back in marketing. And the summit thing grew. I became known for summits. I've done about 450 at this point. And I just kind of grew into the name of, the person who knows how to do summits. Some people are like, Jennie's the summit queen. And I was like, I'm not going to use that moniker, but I think I know my stuff. Anyways, I started doing that. And in the past couple of years, I've been really growing into more of a leadership side. So I've been doing fractional CMO work, head of marketing for some companies, ops, that kind of thing. But I still do summits and I still play in this space, and I help coaches and I grow coaching businesses for a reason, because it's a passion of mine to do.
Wow. So you've really tried all different types of things.
I get bored easily.
I resonate with that.
Yeah. I have to keep it interesting. I can't just do one thing. It's I've got to work for 5, 6, 7 people at any given time, because it keeps the variety. And yeah, I get bored. So I like to have fun.
But that's the thing, right? You got to have fun in business. You got to have fun in life. So yeah. I love that you're pivoting, you're learning all these things, and you've learned so much through virtual summits. And I still can't believe you ran that many at the same time. But
that was insane. Never do that. I was trying to move, and I needed first and last month's rent at the time. This is over a decade ago. And I wasn't charging enough for summits at that point. So to make the money that I needed, I just kept taking on clients. And so I had 18 clients at the same time for a period of, I think it was almost 3 months, so 90 days. At the end of the 90 days, I literally sat in a lawn chair and cried into a Caesar for probably a whole day. I was just I can't believe I did that. And I never did it again, but I made my goal. I got first and last month's rent, enough to buy a new couch and a couple other things. I think I got a new mattress and, a couple other cool things that I really needed. And it was worth it. It was worth it. It was trial by fire.
Wow. Okay. So I'm really fascinated by your story of how you just dove into everything. And you've been supporting coaches, like you mentioned, for some time. You help them grow their businesses. And lead generation is really the bread and butter of your business, right? You need to get that down. So please just tell us a little bit more about that. There are a lot of mistakes that a lot of elite coaches do. And I would love for you to kind of share a little bit more about what that is and what they make when it comes to attracting new clients.
Absolutely. So if you're at the elite level and you're established, you're charging a good amount for your coaching, one of the biggest mistakes that they make is they're not lead generating in enough different spaces to pull people in from the different levels that people are in their business, right? So if you charge $10,000 for your coaching package, you're probably thinking, I don't need to pull in the person who can only afford 300, but that person could be a $10,000 client and a very loyal one in the future. And so one of the mistakes that I see is that there's not enough of that information. Like Elite Coach provides hands-on, supportive lead magnet or workshops for people who are still at the lower level trying to grow. That's one thing. The other thing is automation. So if you're an elite coach and you are trying to scale, automation is where you need to play. You need to have lead generation automation happening, and you need to be using a tool, whatever that is. You could use Kit, you could use GHL, whatever it is that you want to use, but there needs to be the ability to do very complex automations so that you are not having to do that manual piece, right? And so you should be doing, and you should be looking at a third thing, which is having an SLO, a self-liquidating funnel. And so if you are an elite coach and you're trying to get clients, you need to have a process that takes care of people from the initial part of that lead generation journey all the way to the sales call. And it needs, again, automation, seamlessness, pulling people from where they are to get them to where you need them to be and where they should be in order for them to say yes to your high level coaching. And so it's a full 360 plan for lead generation and marketing that a lot of people don't look at. They're looking very micro and not macro. And so you really need to focus on that big picture. And that happens at every level, but it still happens a lot for high level coaching.
Wow. So there seems to be a lot of things that they really have to set up in place in order to kind of automate that. And yeah, when you're an elite coach, like you need to be able to have these in place for you and running for you in the background while you are serving your clients. But I know a lot of coaches fear that automation can feel a bit impersonal too. So how do you create I don't know, what is your take on that?
It absolutely can. So, but if you are very heart-centered, you want to add in more inflection of, connection and transparency, or a little bit of loving on, you can absolutely do that in an automation. You 100% can. And don't think of the automation as I'm going to use AI to write all my emails and do all that. Automation actually allows you, in my opinion, and how I do it, it allows you to actually be more hands-on, feeling. Okay, so it's a feeling that you're creating, right? And so we use things like VSLs, video sales letters. That creates that sort of connection, that creates that intimacy. Additionally, I can automate and say, hey, Fifa, you just got a brand new person on the list that qualifies as a level 5 potential client. So if you do lead scoring, right? So when somebody comes in your funnel, for every action that they take, you give them a lead score, and the lead score can go up and the lead score can go down based on the actions they take within your funnels, okay? And within your automations. If they get to a lead score of 5 or whatever number you want to associate, that person becomes a high-level potential client. At that point, I would have an automation that kicks off and says, FIFA, brand new high-level 5, level 5 potential client, send them a loom. And so you would record, hey, Stacy, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I saw that you grabbed my such and such, and then my such and such. And, and you're in my community. I just wanted to send you a personal thank you and tell you how much I appreciate you being here. And, if you've got any questions, I'd love to jump on a call and just chat. I'll make sure there's a link below this video. Have a great day. Right? That's short, that's sweet, but very personalized, because that person has already gone through certain levels of a journey to get to know you. And now you know that they're, through these automations, they're a high level potential client, and you can make that personal touch. Now you can add that personal touch in a lot earlier if you want. I mean, it all depends on you. You don't have to wait, but automation can provide that personal touch that feels less transactional.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I love the idea of more video involved as well.
Yes.
It's the best way for people to kind of get to know you more and see your face and hear how you speak, how you explain things too.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. It really, really does. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, and I do see that sometimes with coaches, if you see even sales pages and all these things, the next page is usually a video sales letter on the thank you page and whatnot. And that's another way of creating funnels and all those things, but like that is a way to create that connection that may be lacking with automation. So I love that we touched on that. And I know that there's like lead magnets and all those things that we can integrate that as part of as well. Can we talk a little bit more about lead magnets and like what essential elements you think that helps a lead magnet really convert?
Yes. I love talking about that. The reason I love it and the reason it's a great topic to have is that it's not a one size fits all solution. So what would work for your audience may not work for my audience or may not work for somebody else's. And so what you have to do is you're going to do some A/B testing, and A/B testing is essential, right? Absolutely essential. And so you're going to create a lead magnet that you probably think is amazing and that your clients will love, or your, potential clients will love, and it falls flat. And you're like, what the actual crap just happened here, right? Remove crap and put in a better word. But what just happened here? And I don't understand. I thought this thing was amazing and people would love it. And it didn't. A couple things that didn't happen. One, you didn't have conversations prior to making it to make sure that it was something your ideal client wants. You just assumed. And two, you're not A/B testing. And so if you think that every person on your list wants to receive a PDF, you are absolutely incorrect. If you think that everybody out there wants to have a 3-part video miniseries, that is absolutely incorrect. Everybody wants something different. And so you have to speak to the different kinds of people and the way that they learn. Some people are visual, some people are audio, some people read everything, some people are skimmers, some people just, you know what I mean? Like there's all these different ways that people interact with your content, and your content has to provide that for them, right? So if most of your audience is neurospicy, they're not going to read a 95-page PDF.
That's true.
And they're not going to watch a 25-minute video. Right? So know your audience, ask questions. I love sending out a survey and then building something that I think people will like. But I also like having one-on-one conversations. I've done this many times. And every time I do, I learn something new. And funny enough, I also close clients. So I actually offer, hey, I'm creating a new product, or I'm looking at creating a new lead magnet. I'd love to have conversations, some one-on-ones. They're going to be about 10 to 15 minutes long. I'll ask you some questions. And as a thank you for your time, I'm actually going to give you a 30-minute like strategy session or something. And so I'll have the 15-minute call. I'll grab what I need. I'll get their feedback. And then I give a 30-minute coaching session. I'm not going to lie, but like half the time I close that person for a client. Right?
Wow.
So I get the stuff that I need. But then I also can offer a valuable service and provide people with something that, they didn't think they were going to get. If hopefully it feels really, really great. And then some of those people might actually decide to work with me. And so it's a win-win situation. I think that too many elite coaches pull too far back and think that their time is so valuable that they no longer have to press the flesh with people. And I think that's completely wrong. Sales is made through connection and trust. And as big as you are, you still need to get in there, and you still need to talk to people, and you still need to have those one-on-one conversations. And you cannot put yourself behind a beautiful wall and think that you can run an elite business that way. Eventually, it will come to, bite you in the butt.
Yeah, no matter at what level you are. I love that you touched on that you still need to be the face of your brand and be in front of clients.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
you never know where the referral is going to come from.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's always that personal touch that always that's why coaching is one-on-one, right? It's who you are hiring to be able to get results from. And most of the time you want to work with specifically that person.
There's a really great example that I can give you, and it actually pertains to you.
Okay.
So I know you go to a lot of events. I see it on your Instagram. I see it on your Facebook, all these things, right? You go to a lot of events and you see and you meet a lot of people. And I've met you in person, right? If you are one of those elite people and you only go to specific events and you only, maybe you don't go to some of them or you don't interact with people, then people on the other side, potential leads, are going to go, she feels untouchable. She feels like somebody I can't relate to, that most likely I'm not the right client for her, or I can't afford her, or anything like that. But when you get to meet somebody at an event, or you get to meet them on a summit, or, you offer the calls like I was suggesting, you overcome that barrier. And people, like a lot of people will say, wow, I never thought that I'd be able to get to talk to you. Like I didn't think that's something you did. I'm so glad it is, because now I realize this is something I probably need.
That's a great example. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah,
Yeah.
because there are some people like, let's say, like I seen you too, like on summits and all those things. It goes the other way around too. I'm like, oh, I thought, like, and then I see you at this event, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like she's so cool. Like, and we got into conversations during that event too, and I got to know you, and I'm like, wow, like I thought it would be hard to kind of like have that conversation with you, like just having not a conversation, but more of like a connection with you. But as I got to know you and I started to see more of your content, and then we started having conversation, it's like you're very down to earth. You are somebody that is still like, you're doing amazing things. You are very successful at what you do, but it's like you're not so far away from me that I
No.
can't, reach you and
No,
be a
and
part of
I'm
you.
introverted, right? So I have like a double whammy of like I'm introverted and I'm busy, but like heck no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know this is like adjacent to lead gen, but it is specifically about lead gen. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you are charging like a decent sum, it doesn't matter if you're charging $19 a month for a membership or $19,000 for a coaching package. Lead gen is still about reaching through the virtual barrier, right? Or reaching through whatever like physical barrier to connect with people on the level that they're at so that you can get them to the level that they want to be at. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's really important.
Yeah. No, I really love that. What would you say like is like, because then now there's so much competition online too,
Oh
like
God, yeah.
we're talking about like especially since COVID happened, like coaches popped up everywhere, like literally
Everybody's a
everybody's a
coach.
coach now. Yeah,
Everybody's a
everybody's a
coach.
coach. So like in this world that we live in right now, what is your advice on how elite coaches can really stand out and attract their ideal audience in this like noisy world that we live in?
You have to be different, right? You have to have that thing that makes you completely different or makes you stand out. And that takes knowing yourself, right? So I think elite coaches are very successful because they continue to do the inner work. They
Mm-hmm.
continue to do a lot of self-reflection and self-discovery. And so we're constantly thinking like, what can I do better? How can I mean, all these books behind me are not just for show, like they're self-improvement and, all that kind of stuff. And I think the thing that makes people stand out is, and this is going to sound very inflammatory. Everything we do is completely Googleable. Like you can Google everything we do,
Yeah.
right? You can Google how to learn how to do anything these days. And you got ChatGPT that can then also teach you how to do it if you ask for a step by step. But nobody has the time, the inclination, or the patience. Not nobody, but a lot of people don't. And also the way it's packaged is what matters, right? So you might be a very empathetic coach. You might be a very loving coach. I might be a little bit more of a suck it up buttercup kind of coach, which is what I am, right? I'm kind of more of like okay, I know this is like, life, but we still got to do the thing. So let's go do the thing. And then afterwards we're going to go have our spa day. That's sort of I'm a work hard, play hard kind of person. And so what makes you different is the way that you interact or the way that you support or train. How do you market that, right? So it's about it being very clear about yourself and also incredibly niched in, right? The people that are niched in and know who their ideal market is or their ideal client automatically will stand out because they know themselves and they know their ideal client really, really well. And so I think it's very important to have those constant check-ins with yourself. I do it all the time. I've been doing this for 13 years in the online space, and I do it all the time because I know that I can tell sometimes when I'm getting outside of my comfort or my ability to stand out, and I got to rein it back in and be who I am. So I think a lot of people, a lot of people try and emulate others.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's a big, big problem. I think the emulation, or I want to be like Amy Porterfield, or I want to be like so-and-so. You can't be them. Those people are miles away from where you are currently. They may have been where you are right now at some point, but they also did it completely differently because honestly, it just keeps changing in our space. So I think you need to embrace who you are, whatever that is, embrace the quirkiness, whatever your secret sauce is. And that's one way to stand out. The other way to stand out is consistency. And that's the easiest thing you can do. Consistency will make you stand out, right? If you constantly see the new like commercial on TV for the brand new Kia or Volkswagen or something, constantly, it's going to eventually be in your head. You'll think about it at some point. But if you only show up and you go, I only have to email my list twice a month, the other 28 days of the month, who are they listening to? Because it's not you.
It's true.
Right? So that's where consistency plays in.
Consistency is key. Honestly, it's something that I've started to develop more of consistency in my execution nowadays, and it's definitely showing up in my results. But just being out there, like going to these events, putting my content out there, talking to my email list, whereas I barely even showed up before, and I was wondering, why am I not getting any clients? Well, people are not
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So that's also the relating also to the idea of you showing up as yourself, and just showing up as yourself consistently is how inbound attraction is also happening, right? Like you are attracting those people to you. So let's talk a little bit more about that, and like why permission marketing is so powerful. Let's talk about that.
I love permission marketing. I love permission-based marketing. So back in another life, I used to stand at the door of a very large wholesale retailer, okay, where you have to show a membership card to get in.
Wow.
All right. Worked there for over a decade. And at one point, I was running the marketing team. I was on the marketing team there. And as part of this promotion that we would have, I would stand at the door and people would show their membership card to get in. And then I would try and get people to sign up for a brand new Amex card.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Or sign up for whatever. That was just part of the deal that we had to do. And if you ever try to get somebody to sign up for, like if you ever see somebody with a clipboard, everybody runs the other way.
It's true.
Okay. But if somebody says like, hi, could I get you interested in talking about a new American Express card? You can be like, hell no. And you're also going to run the other way. And I'm going to chase you around the store, but that's another story. So permission-based marketing this is where I learned permission-based marketing. So instead of standing at the door with a clipboard, asking people if they wanted a card, I flipped the script and I would walk up to people as they were ready to cash out and say, can I give you a hand loading your groceries up onto the belt? Can I give you a hand with that? And it looks like you got a lot of stuff. Like this looks like about $500 or $600 worth of stuff. Can I give you a hand? Yeah, sure. Give me a hand. I would load up their stuff. While I'm loading up their stuff, I'm like, do you do this? Like, do you do this level of shop often? Yeah, I do this like twice a month. I've got a family of 4. Like, or I've got a business and I'm buying this much. Okay, so you're spending like anywhere between $1,200 to $1,500 a month right now, right? And you're putting that on what? Amex, debit. Oh yeah, I pay on blah, blah, blah. Awesome. Do any of those cards give you like, anywhere between 5% to 10% cash back? No. Okay, well, I have a card like that I could show it to you if that would make sense. Yeah, of course that would make sense. Awesome. By the time they've cashed out, I've already got them filled out the form for the credit card. As they're leaving, I walk them to the table to sign the form. I process the form before they even walked out the door, and I've got my sale.
That's
permission-based, but I didn't push them. I showed them the problem. I asked them questions to find out what they really, really needed. They filled in the blanks and then asked me, right? And I just said, I might have a solution. If I did, could I share it with you? Absolutely. Permission-based, right? So that's like a concrete example. And that's an example from a while ago. When we're doing in our elite coaching businesses, permission-based is micro permission, right? If I had something like I'll give you a really good example. Yesterday, I started an ads campaign for a client, and we asked the client to give us a 30-second video that we could use for Facebook ads. And the client starts the video. If I had a system that would show you how to, behind the scenes, to get to this, to be able to do that, would it be worth your time to check it out? Right? Permission-based. Because the person is going to either say yes or they're going to say no. If it feels like you're asking questions and you're trying to connect with people on a real level where they are, and that you might have a solution if they're interested, and you take the time to not sound like a bro douche, right? You're doing permission-based marketing. If you sound like a bro douche, you're on the other side of it. Don't do it, right? And so that's a really good example, I think, of permission-based marketing. If you look at that and you integrate that into all of your systems and processes, you'll see your opt-in rates soar. I mean, soar. You'll go from, this is how I get high converting landing pages, okay? You go from a 22%, which is industry standard, to where Jennie lives for her clients, which is around 55%.
Wow.
Okay, so if 100 people land on your page and 55% say yes to your lead magnet or your summit or your challenge or whatever, you're getting like literally 30 more people than industry standard looking at your stuff before they make a decision. That's where permission-based marketing kicks butt.
That is crazy. That's a huge
And
difference.
it's easy. It's so easy. It's just we're not taught. We're not taught to do it that way necessarily. And if you fall into the bro marketing space, again, douche, then you're, sorry, feel very strongly about that. Then you're not coming at people, like you're really trying to ram something down somebody's throat. If you, I don't know if you ever seen that movie Hitch.
Oh, I haven't watched it yet, but
Okay.
I've heard about it, yes.
It's from a long time ago. It's really, really funny. There's a scene in the movie where he's trying to teach this guy how to get the girl to kiss him as opposed to him kissing the girl. And he says, you go, what is it? You go 90 and she comes 10. So you go 90% of the way and you stop right before you're about to kiss her and you make her come the last part. So you make the offer and you talk things, but you leave room for her to move in. Right. And so when we look at permission-based marketing, we're having the person come a long way. Like we're making them come 20% or whatever the case is. And we're not pushing and ramming the sale down their throat so they don't feel like they have the power in the situation when they should have the power in the situation.
That's a perfect example. I love your examples.
I teach by example. And that's also how I think.
You're great at that though. Like it really paints the picture of how things work. And I do love the idea of permission-based marketing. And it's something more of like, yeah, it's more in line with how we should be, well, how I want to do it, but also how people should be doing it too, especially seeing all of the conversion rates that you've been getting for your clients, right? So that's like the best way for you to like the first thing I guess people can do to kind of tweak their marketing a little bit to get more leads for their business, right?
Yeah. If you're at an elite level and you're charging quite a bit of money, one or even 3% of a change in a positive way can mean hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So there's like so many different ways of like bringing in leads for your business. Now, there's a lot of things there from all different platforms and all different spaces that we need to kind of keep track of, especially when you said coming A/B testing and all those things, which can be a little overwhelming, especially for those who are not really a numbers person like myself. I'm not really a numbers person at all. Kind of avoid it, but I'm trying not to do that anymore. But let's say with all these numbers that we need to keep track of to ensure that our lead gen strategy is working, what is something that we need to like, what are the most important numbers that you think we need to really track to know if it's working or not?
Okay, there's a couple. One of them is I want you to look at your level of unsubscribes. Now, to get to the point where you let people leave your list, in the beginning, when you first start getting people leaving your list, it feels really personal. Like, why? Like, I was even on a call with that person. Why did they unsubscribe? They must hate me. When you get to a point where you're like, okay, I let them go with grace, have a lovely life. The numbers are interesting because if you have a large unsubscribe rate, that means you're pulling in leads that are not a good fit. Where are those leads coming from? And so one of the numbers that I look at is, or in correlation with this, is where am I showing up? So what summits, what podcasts, what, everything that I'm on, what leads are coming in and where the source is coming from. And then when I start sending my regular emails, my newsletters, or whatever you want to call them out, where am I losing and leaking the leads? Okay. So where are these unsubscribes happening? And what are the comments when somebody does unsubscribe? So I do look at those. Like, I'm not bothered that the person unsubscribed, but if I send an email and 25 people unsubscribe immediately, I'd be like, what happened there? Because my regular unsubscribe rate is 10 or under. Right? So if something spikes, you got to look at it. Same thing goes for podcast numbers, right? So if your downloads are spiking, what happened? What did you change? So, where have you been showing up? What's different, right? So you need to have the awareness of what these things are. And if you are not a numbers person, then make sure that your admin or your VA is. Okay. And so I have a monthly report. My virtual assistant or my basically my right-hand person gathers all the numbers. They're gathering how many people are in my Facebook group, my this, my that. They gather all my social numbers. They gather my list size numbers, my open rate, my click-through rate, my unsubscribe rate, all those numbers, and they put them in a report so that I can see on a month-to-month basis the trend. Now, you're always going to get unsubscribes. You're always going to be, showing up in different places, and everything's going to have a different impact, especially over time. But if you start collecting those numbers for 6 months or 9 months or a year, or at this point, a couple of years, you can start to see what the trends are like, right? So I would say if you hate reporting and you hate numbers, minimum, you should be seeing, like, I have a list of everywhere I show up. I know that's like crazy because I'm on a lot of podcasts and stuff like that, but I record where I've shown up and I look at the results, right? The other thing is if you're doing any kind of paid traffic, then you cannot escape the numbers. You have to look at your cost per click. You have to look at everything. But if you're doing just organic, I say suck it up because that's my personality. And just honestly, you've got to look at a lot more than what you think.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, the proof is in the pudding, right?
It really, really is. It really is. I made a really bad, seriously bad mistake a couple of years ago. I partnered with somebody, and it wasn't a good partnership. It was a very short-lived partnership, thankfully, because I came to. But I was like, wow, this person's got a Facebook group that's like, this is right before the pandemic. This person had a Facebook group with numbers I could only imagine getting in front of. And they said, yeah, you can get in front of my numbers. You can get in front of my Facebook group. I'll give you free reign. We can do all this kind of stuff. I just want to do this or that together. And when it came to doing that partnership, I was the one left holding the bag to do all of the tech, and all of the strategy, and all of this and all of that. And that person sat in their lovely office chair in front of their lovely business group and raked in the dough because I did all the work. Because I thought that person was giving me exposure I couldn't get on my own. And it was a load of crap, right? But it didn't show until I started looking at the numbers, and also I had a little bit of a, come to whatever moment of, oh, wait a minute, this is not an even partnership. But I wasn't making any money off of it. And the results I was getting from it were poop. And the clients the leads I was getting from it were not my ideal client. They all unsubscribed. So you've got to look at that stuff. Where did the leads come from? Oh, they came from that Facebook group. How many of them are unsubscribing? Pretty much all of them. That's why segmentation and tagging is so important. That's why when somebody joins your Facebook group, or not your Facebook group, when somebody joins your lead magnet, this is why UTM links are important. This is why tagging is important and using different tags. This is why I have different landing pages for different things, right? So I know where the traffic's coming from. And then those people are tagged as they're coming in. And then when they go to leave, I know where they left, like where they were. And I can say that did not work out.
And then tweak your strategy accordingly.
Completely.
Yeah.
Right? You can't have an ego in this business. You cannot think that people, you can't think it's personal in that way. It's business. And you've got to treat it that way. You've got to treat, like, numbers don't have attitude. We do. Right?
Yeah.
The numbers aren't like trying to piss you off. They're not trying to be mean. They're just telling the truth. You've got to accept the picture and go for it.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, like that's the thing. Like, no matter what, can't avoid numbers. Even if you don't like it,
hire somebody who does. Hire somebody who does.
Yeah, I think that's probably what I'm gonna do.
That's what, honestly, even though I do know the numbers because I've done them for so long, I have somebody who does them for me.
Okay.
Right? I just interpret the trends.
Yeah. And that's what you gotta do, folks. So let's take everything that we learned from Jennie today and implement it into our businesses. So, I mean, we've talked a lot about a whole bunch of different things. So I would love to hear more about, like, what exciting things that you have coming up. Like, tell us a little bit more about how they can get into your world.
Okay, there's so many different ways, but one of the easiest ways is to go and check out the Acquire podcast. So if you go and try and search out Acquire, there is Acquired. Somebody else has that name, but I love the name of my podcast. So just type in Acquire and then put in Jennie Wright. I'll come up right away. It's a little blue logo with some arrows. It's really cool. I love the design. So check out the podcast or go to jennywright.com. I've got lots of resources there. You can get into my world very easily that way. I am also super approachable on social. Send me a DM. Tell me that you came from the Coaching with Impact podcast. Let me know that, FIFA sent you. We'll be good friends right from there because I adore FIFA and I love this podcast. I listen to it all the time. So make sure you're letting me know that's where you came from, and I'd love to help and support people.
Love that. So like you are most active on where, Instagram or?
Yeah. So business wise, I'm most active on Instagram, doom scrolling, obviously TikTok, but I don't interact with people there. Instagram.
Okay. Instagram. All right. So make sure to follow Jennie. And if you loved what we discussed today, like you're going to love her podcast because I'm obsessed with her podcast. So definitely check it out and just give her a follow. Shout out to her. Like she is doing incredible things. And I hope that you got so much value from our conversation today. And if you loved what you listened to today and you'd like to give us some voice notes or, we listen to these. So send them our way, share us some love, and give us a 5-star rating if you really, really enjoyed it. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you for your time always, Jennie. And yeah, stay tuned for other incredible episodes to come.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.